Right beside you, Epilogue, the last chapter. December 25th. Felicia quickly became my daughter's newest best friend. Marva and Carol couldn't believe that I was going to marry a woman they thought was real cool and so pretty. They had helped her prepare the meal we planned for a few of our relatives and friends to celebrate our engagement and the holiday today. Felicia and I had decided to get married in April next year. As picture postcard beautiful as Ohio was in the wintertime, it was never a good time to get married. My brother's wedding had occurred in December. Half the people on the guest list had not been able to make it because of the severe weather conditions that day. Felicia didn't want a big church wedding, and that was fine with me. Had we been 10 or 15 years younger, I would have thought differently. We agreed to exchange vows in my living room. My house was where the dozen people we invited would gather today in less than a couple of hours. Marva and Carol were in their rooms enjoying a video chat with their grandparents. My former in-laws had previously planned to spend the holiday with other relatives. Otherwise, they would have been in the house long before now. They were as happy for us as everybody else. Despite the fact that Pam had cooked up a feast and had guests coming to her own house later in the day, she and her husband and two of their grandchildren had already arrived 2 hours early. He was in the living room with the grandkids watching game shows, and Pam was in the kitchen with Felicia and me. Felicia, I'm glad you didn't want to get married before Mary Beth and Ramona. They were so afraid that if you did, all of our co-workers' attention would be on you. Pam said. She and I and Felicia were at my kitchen table. There was an empty eggnog carton on the table in front of us. We drank 2 glasses each. I can understand why you feel that way, Felicia replied. A girl's wedding is a big deal, especially at their ages. Some older people like us don't want their wedding to be too elaborate. Speaking of older people, guess who else is going to be married? Pam piped in, bouncing up and down on her chair. She looked like she was going to burst wide open if she didn't get the information out fast enough. I didn't waste any time asking. Who? Clyde is going to marry that woman in Cleveland he's been seeing? Felicia exclaimed. Psst, not hardly. Pam responded with a dismissive wave. That boy has it too easy living at home. But now that it's happening for you two, there's hope for him. Then who is it, Pam? I asked. I was so antsy I could barely stand still. Regina. Regina? I boomed. I had seen her out and about several times since our dim sum lunch. We'd been cordial to each other, but each time she rushed away from me within seconds. Consider how she felt about me now, I would always consider her a friend. Who is she going to marry? Felicia asked. A used car salesman she met online last year. They dated off and on, and he helped her find a car to replace her old one. Last week they finally decided to get engaged. When I was at Macy's on Saturday, I ran into the young intern who works with Regina. Susan told me that, and she said Regina couldn't be happier. I'm happy for her, I admitted, and I was. Felicia, your mama's on the telephone, Carol yelled from the living room. Felicia jumped up out of her chair and grabbed the extension above the counter. Mama! She didn't speak again for about half a minute, and then her eyes got big and her mouth dropped open. Is it everything you thought it would be? A few more moments of silence passed. I'm so glad to hear that, Mama. Tell Daddy to enjoy himself, and please take plenty of pictures. She covered the mouthpiece with her hand and said with her voice shaken, My folks made it to the Holy Land today. She listened for a couple more minutes, and when she hung up, there were tears in her eyes. This is the best Christmas I've ever had. I feel the same way, I said. This is the whole book, guys, right beside you by the author Mary Monroe. Like, comment, and subscribe on this video. Bye-bye. Peace to you all. Love you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.